here we are on our first episode of UkeTV Behind the Artist, and we're doing a roundtable to start. Thank you guys so much. So let's quick intro of everybody we've got. Just not that anybody needs introductions here, but Brittany Paiva, we've got Jake Shimabukuro, we've got Herb Oda Jr., Brian Tolentino, Taimane Gardner, and Mr. Andrew Molina. So let's go ahead and we'll get going on it. And, so the way, again, the format that we're going to go is I'll throw a question out. I'll ask somebody to lead off. I know the conversation will go a little organic. I might try to reel it in if I can possibly do so with this crew. It might be a challenge, but all right, here we go. You guys ready for that first question? So
sure.
Who are the ukulele artists that came before you who tremendously influenced you as an artist as you've kind of grown in your career? And I'm going to start off with Jake on that one.
Oh, for me, the three big ones were Eddie Kamai, Ota-san, and Roy Sukuma.
And as just,
of course, these two guys, right?
Of course. And what was it about their, them as artists that sort of you gravitated towards? Like, what got you passionate about their music or made you want to learn from them?
Oh yeah, they were the...
That take about 30 seconds to get going?
Yeah, they were the pioneers, the first virtuosos, of the instrument, and paved the way for all of us.
Yeah, for sure. Brian, I know this is a topic near and dear to your heart, for sure.
No, growing up listening to Eddie Kamai, not only his virtuosity, but a lot of the Hawaiian folk music that he did, I listened to, and of course Ota-san, for all the he just took it to another level. He played all pop stuff, Song for Anna, and all those things. And a big one for me is he played slack key also, was Peter Moon. He just took Hawaiian music in a different direction. All of these grooves that he played, and it was just cool. And Herb Oda Jr. too. He was one of the guys that I
used to listen to him when you was a kid.
Yes, I got the LP. No, but like today, I listen to Benny Chong. I listen to guitarist Kuki Amang. Do you guys know Halehaku Seabury? His reharmonization of stuff on the ukulele is sometimes second to none. But nobody knows who he is because he doesn't promote himself as an ukulele player. But we had a get-together last week, Thursday. I didn't video. I don't know if Brittany did, but there was Benny Chong, Jake Shimabukuro, and Halehaku Seabury. And they were just trading off, and it was just phenomenal. And that was just music for us, you know what I mean? So I get inspired by a lot of different people, not just ukulele players, but just music in general. Was that too long?
No, you're good. I'll tell you when you're too long.
I've never heard that before.
When Andrew falls over on the couch sleeping. Taimane, I would love to hear kind of like where, who got you going and excited.
Well, Jake Shimabukuro was one of my teachers at a very young age, so I have a lot of influence and a lot of respect for Jake, and also Herb Jr. as well was one of my teachers. But I agree with Brian. I think we also take a lot of inspiration from players who are not ukulele players, guitar players, just artists in that way. And so I've taken from like Santana, Pink Floyd, The Doors, and then try to incorporate that into ukulele playing.
That's true. Yeah, I think you can see a lot of that in your music and in your shows as well. Not just in what we hear, but what we see.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Herb.
What was the question? Of course, my dad. I started playing when I was 3. Same height. But when I got interested in Hawaiian music, Eddie Kamai, of course. My dad even considered Eddie as a god.
That's a lot of praise right there. Coming
Well,
from your
Eddie
dad.
took my dad under his wing when my dad was 12. You know, so that ultimate respect for Eddie, it gravitated to me, where I looked at Eddie as royalty. You know, but I also listened to other guitar players in the Hawaiian music scene, like Ledward Kaapana. So I mean, but ukulele as a focal point, it was mainly my dad.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just in case, just to clarify, in case people watching and they're not familiar. So, Ota-san was Herb's father.
Is
And I mean, yeah, is Herb's father.
Very strange. What happened?
So, yeah, but that was the lineage, Eddie Kamai, right, taught Ota-san, and Ota-san taught Roy Sakuma, right? And then Roy Sakuma is actually my teacher.
Yeah.
So
My teacher too.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of
Yeah, many, I think.
ukulele players
Yeah,
came through Roy.
I mean, he had the premier school. Right? So
Yeah. I mean,
He's
And
not
then-
the only one.
and then the
Well, your dad taught too, yeah. Your dad taught.
Yeah. And then also, the whole, the kind of pioneered the whole concept of ukulele festivals, things like that. So it's pretty
that's a
amazing.
bummer that we've seen our last one of those.
53,
After so
yeah.
many
They
years.
ended. 53.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You were,
The-
Taimani, I think you were going to say something.
Oh yeah, well I was saying Jake also taught his younger brother Bruce. I also took from. Also
Brucey.
Bruce, shout out
teaches
to Bruce.
and ukulele hale in Kaimuki as well. So
Mhm.
Jody Kamisato, who taught Honoka Nizita. So it's just funny how like we all look at each other as pioneers regarding generation. So for me, Jake Shimbro is one of the pioneers for me, but just seeing like the generation history of like what you saw as your pioneers and how it all kind of builds in that way is very special.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
if I may add, that's the connection we all have.
Mhm.
We're all connected. We
100%.
didn't learn in the Midwest or in the East Coast. There is a lot of connection because again, the ukulele was born here, so there has to be some connection from that day one ukulele.
But I think it's an interesting thing, and I definitely am going to get to Brittany and Andrew on this as well.
sorry.
But no. But you bring up a good point. And it was something I was thinking about, and it's related to the question of, it's something I've noticed as somebody who's more recent on this and gotten to know you guys is that, and so many others, that is one of the things that I think is special about ukulele in Hawaii. And you guys have all these connections, and I learned from this person and this person. There's this lineage that comes through. You don't hear about that quite as much in rock and roll or other genres or other types of instruments. Yes, I learned, drummers learn from Neil Peart and these others, but they learn by listening, not by actually learning from these people. And I think that's one of the most fascinating things to me is this connection that you guys do all have, just as ukulele artists, but also as, Hawaiians, and just the way it has worked. That's just the way it has been. On top of what you guys did in school, I know that was also a common thing. That was you learned ukulele at school as well. So I think it's another one of those things about the community that to me is amazing that I've seen.
Yeah, I think it was fourth grade, yeah. Fourth grade, right? When we were young, when we used to learn in
We're in one
elementary
class.
I feel like it's third grade. Yeah,
Was it third grade?
Brian was in fifth
Yeah.
grade.
Was in one
Yeah.
class.
Was it?
The elementary
was homeschooled.
school.
Oh,
Yeah.
Brian was 1 year up from that. He was fifth grade.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We were all in the same class, right?
Teacher. Oh no, student. Sorry.
So Brittany, yeah, I'd love to hear kind of, where your influences have come from.
I think starting ukulele, my influences were Herb and Brian. And I think at that time, Jake was coming out with Pure Heart and everything, and
I just went bing, like, bing. Sorry.
And there was two crowds, at the time. There was like the Jake people that play all of Jake's songs, and then there's like the Herb and Brian and Eddie Kumai.
The old stuff.
Yeah. So all of my friends at the time would be playing Jake stuff, and I would be like, yeah, that's cool, but I really like Herb stuff. So yeah. So those were my I think my two core ukulele inspirations. Along with Eddie Kumai and Peter Moon, and even as far back as Royce Mack.
Yeah, Royce Mack.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool though. Like as a relatively younger artist,
Mm-hmm.
like you like the contemporary stuff, you like the newer stuff, but you were really
there's a lot of
connected to
gold.
the-
There's a lot of gold in the old stuff, and so yeah, those are my ukulele inspirations. But I drew a lot of inspirations from guitarists like Jeff Beck, Marty Friedman, Paco de Lucia, all those guys, and coming from a classical piano background, that was my first instrument before the ukulele. Coming from that, I had a lot of classical training that I wanted to incorporate into the way that I play ukulele. So, yeah, it's just kind of like a hodgepodge of inspirations all over the place. Yeah.
sure.
That's
I have a question, for all of us. How many of you listen to ukulele music?
My girlfriend makes me listen to mine in the car.
I wasn't joking.
I mean, not my,
I wasn't joking when I
not
said
my
I listened
own,
to you all.
not my own music, but I listen to ukulele music.
No, I mean, I
yeah.
listen to ukulele music, but that's not the first thing that I listen to. I listen to all different types of music.
Depends on the mood I'm in.
That's
Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I know the ukulele players and what, but it's like, I want to listen to other stuff. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah.
You need a break every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Trance.
Yes, trance music. That's our yeah.
I feel
Andrew and
like
I
that.
always go off on this tangent into the old school late 90s and early 2000s trance music, and yeah,
I'm trying to look at it.
some of the best
I don't really,
electronic music came from that era.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
but I don't listen to like.
And then Andrew, I know
It's
you
my first choice.
also have a familial influence.
Oh yeah, of course. I was one of the Jake boys you were talking about. Like just seeing what you did. Yeah, maybe word it differently than that, but no, it was just so inspiring. And at the same time, like our teacher showed Britney CD. I seen Taimani on on TV. So like I'm still like in like middle school, and I'm seeing these guys like performing already. So obviously influences from all of them. But yeah, Jake definitely one of the main ones. Helped me get out of my shell because I was such a shy kid growing up. So that was just like the words of advice you were just giving me, like, don't stop, believe in what you do. And I've always taken that with me. So always believe in your path and what you feel like you're meant to do. So Jake, Herb, yeah, my cousin really got you into your music, and Herb would be like my second highest influence. And then your dad, man, after hearing the Body Surfing, the original version with the bridge and everything, I was like, whoa. So.
No, there's no controversy there. No more controversy.
What about the influences a little closer to home that might have pushed you in one direction or another? I mean, you've got your dad, the
Yeah. So
slightly well known, plays a little bit of bass here and there.
yeah, my dad, he's ever since I was like 2 years old, I remember him just bringing his bass home from work, and he was always he never worked like a day job. It was always a musician, but he never did pressure me into playing music. Right? It was just like, oh, if he finds it, he finds it. But looking back, music runs in my family. My grandpa and his 8 brothers all played in the Molina Orchestra back in the 40s. So, but he didn't want to do what my grandpa did to him. He said, okay, we're gonna immerse you in all this, big band music. You play the bass, But for me, it's just like, oh, he didn't want to pressure me. But it was at the age of 13 where I found the ukulele, and listening to Troy Fernandez, Call Crater Boys. That would be another influence as well.
Right.
Seeing like On Fire, Guava Jazz.
Yeah, for a whole generation was Troy.
Yeah. So he was the very first player that I heard, just because that's a CD that my cousin brought over. I'm like, whoa, I want to learn how to pick now, because back in the day it's like you learn a strumming song or a pick. So that was kind of the beginning for me.
Yeah, for sure. So switching topics, Herb, I know you've been doing this for a little while. So my next question, starting with you, is how have you evolved as an artist?
I smile more.
All right.
That is true.
See?
You're not wrong.
Did Jake help you with that?
No, no, not at all.
He never smiles at me.
One of the best comments that Jake ever made about Herb, he tells me, he said, you know what? I've never seen Herb angry, but I've never seen him happy.
Remember that?
I mean, just truth be told.
There's just one Herb.
No, but if you know Herb, he's a crack up. He's one of my funniest friends that I know. We just hang and laugh all the time.
But yeah, so beyond smiling, we're, over the years, as you've, and you can take it down so many different paths of whether it's style, whether it,
All I can say is that, my father's style of playing, of course, I heavily borrow that style of playing, and my dad always had space in his playing, and of course I gravitated to that, but I think only within the last 10 or 15 years I really appreciated what space was, music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how I evolved. It's like I learned to appreciate my father's style of playing more so since I've been doing it,
Time on it.
For me, yeah, I was brought up playing covering music, and so that was more of my base. But as I grew as an artist, I feel more like when I was in college, like 18 to 20, I felt burnt out, to be honest. Like I was like, I'm playing the same music over and over and over again. I need to do something different. And then I found a special place in Chinatown in Hawaii, actually, which was all about only original music. So it really, I found a place where I felt safe and I was able to find my voice as an artist. Wow. And so I started creating original music there. And so I think that's where I started evolving as an artist in this place. And so from there, I started kind of evolving. I like to make concept albums. So I'll start with like the planets, or I'll start with the elements. And so I like to start with an idea and just see how it evolves throughout my life. So the events that has like kind of gone with me as an artist, and how do I incorporate that into my music. But cover music, original, I find myself kind of going back to cover and original music because that's what my audience likes. And so finding that balance.
Yeah. That's awesome. Jake,
Yeah.
what did you say about this for you?
Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like I don't know. For me, it's always just like that search for tone, right? We were talking earlier about finding like the perfect bag, or like
ukulele
the
bags
perfect
for
ukulele
travel.
case or something. But yeah, it's always been tone. I mean, I think that's why I always gravitated toward Ota-san's music. I always thought, he just had the perfect tone. I mean, his touch on that instrument was, it's just amazing, But yeah, but I was also a student of Herb's too,
No,
took
you
lessons.
wasn't.
Yes, I was.
No, you weren't.
Harry's.
Only 1 hour.
That one
Anyways,
hour.
but-
That 1
You have to
hour.
understand, when he was working at House of Music, I think still, right?
Mm-hmm,
And he came to a lesson.
I was employed.
Yeah, you were employed actually. Wow, you were employed.
I remember.
But everything I taught him, he just got it just like that. So I told him, go home already.
Not true, but I mean, it's we always talk about like honoring the previous generations of players, that inspired us But I think also, like for me, like I love, listening to Brittany and Taimane and Andrew. They're so creative, with their own influences and how whatever they hear, right, in their own heads or whatever they imagine, then they find ways to come up with new techniques or new ways of expressing that through their instrument. So it's always neat. Like I always listen to Andrew's recordings, and and he has things that he does, like, wow, it's a really innovative technique. Like when I listen to it, I can't really quite understand what he's doing on the record, but then he'll show me, and oh, that's a really innovative way of doing it. I mean, Taimane too, she has all these great like flamenco strums and like different rasgueados, that she puts into it. But then also with her rock and roll influence, she figures out how to tie in that type of, like the two different feels and genres, right? And then she talked about her, I think when you're at On King, right? That's what you're talking about. So but yeah, her original music, I always thought it was so spectacular, because I was kind of like how she was saying in the beginning. We did a lot of covers. I always covered other people's music because I never had the confidence, to come up with my own original music. Or sometimes you'd write something, but you're always like, I don't know if it's good. I don't want to play it for people, right? But yeah, I mean, her writing is just, amazing, and just the
Very
ideas,
dynamic.
the creativity, the visual, right, elements that you add to it as well. Brittany, she's always, I know you talk about like your trans music, and the, electronic side of it, and how you incorporate that into your ukulele playing with the looping and your percussive ideas, and just how you build the texture, the pieces. Like, I mean, it's so cool, so it's amazing that, I mean, I think it's the first time all of us are sitting in the same room together talking, but, because everyone's always so busy, but we all influence each other. There are things that we all learn from each other. We hear things, and, so yeah, it's really, it's awesome that we all live in the same place, that we can do that.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
Yeah.
Kind
Yeah.
of learning,
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
It's not competitive learning. It's all healthy. Healthy kind of learning.
Yeah, I mean, continual growth is key. Like Taimane said it, she was getting burnt out doing the same thing over and over, whether that's covers or same genre or whatever it might be. If you're just doing that same thing, it gets old. Yeah. So Andrew, the young one, what's the? Oh, actually, I got a new. We're gonna switch topics for you. What's the best piece of advice you've received related, around whether it's your playing or your career, or it could be life as well. But yeah, something that just
kind of
really
going back
stuck
to what
you.
you told me, what Jake told me, like one of the very first times I met him. Because I was like, I had all these CDs, first time seeing him live, and it was just like, I was starting to try to teach myself some of the material, but there's no YouTube back then, so like, remember you're like, oh, that's how you play that chord and stuff like that. But it was that kind of that push up, like, if that's something that you want to do, or that that you believe in, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And it was just something from like that conversation we had back at like the Westin, I believe it was. And I was like, wow, I think I actually kind of want to play ukulele when I grow up, from that conversation. And I just, throughout high school, it's just like my mind was kind of set up, so I kind of visualized where I am today, as a high schooler. I was like, one day I'm gonna, I want to come up with like CDs. I want to record. I want to write and all that stuff. And it was a long journey. There was a time where I actually quit ukulele because I couldn't find my individual voice, and I was just very insecure about, like, oh man, am I just gonna play covers my entire life, or am I gonna make that step? And that step is very important. Will you get to that next level where you become your own artist, or are you just gonna replicate what you hear on the radio? and it was a struggle. But yeah, I finally found my footing, I think, when I turned about 20. Yeah, so.
Awesome. Brian, what about you?
I think the best technical advice that I received was be able to hold chords 2 or 3 different ways, depending on where you're going, where you're coming from. It just makes for playing more efficient. I remember Karen Calvi, Hawaii, telling me, be on time, be prepared, and have fun. And I live by that, you know, because it's not only, and I tell all the young guys and whoever's in an earshot, but, you know, talent will open the doors. But it's your maturity level, your being responsible, your integrity. Those are the things that are going to keep the doors open. The talent is going to open because there's so many talented guys out there, you know, but it's like, oh, what's your maturity level like? What's your business sense like? What's all of that has to come into play. If you choose to do it, even as a part-time career,
You got it.
it's like work.
Doesn't matter what industry you're in.
So all of those things you need.
Yeah.
But the technical was like, yeah, you got to be able to hold chords 2 or 3 different ways, depending on where you're coming from and where you're going. And Benny Chong is a prime example of that, right? It's like, what chord is that? What? I mean, but he's so efficient at it, you know. So, like, a few of the things, I guess.
Brittany, what about you?
Gosh, there's so much. I think the best advice I was ever given, this was right after I kind of, you know, released my first album. It was, there's always, like, no matter who you are or how far you go, there's always going to be somebody better than you. And, you know, in this industry, it's so easy to get stuck with your head in the clouds. It's easy to get caught up in the fame and the attention and, you know, all that stuff. And I mean, as cliche as it sounds, you have to remember where you came from, where you started, and all the things, the trials and tribulations that you went through to get where you're at. You know, and we can think that, oh yeah, I can play, you know, Eric Johnson's Cliffs of Dover note for note, you know, on the ukulele. But there's always going to be somebody that can play it cleaner than you. There's always going to be somebody who can play it faster than you. You know, and we have to remember that everybody is good in their own individual way. And it's not like, you know, who's better, Herb or Jake? Who's better, Brittany or Taimane? You know, we all are good, equally.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. No, but I think... wait, she said. And it's just not being ukulele. It's just... Growing up, there was always somebody. That was ingrained in us.
Just
There's
as
always
people.
somebody at whatever you do. So that's why I think for us Hawaii ukulele players, there's a certain humility that we have because we've all lived that. We're all told, hey, yeah, you know, don't get big head, don't show off, no, and that just comes from upbringing. I think, you know, has nothing to do with ukulele. It's just the upbringing that we all kind of had. Yeah.
For sure. Some of the stuff you were actually just touching on is where I wanted to head with the next question and actually start with you. So have you had points in your career where you've, you know, doubted yourself or struggled through times and that has actually made you, you know, consider, you know, a change in your approach or a change in the way you're looking at your career?
A lot more than people think. Yeah. So I have ADHD and burning out is something that I deal with maybe like every month or two. Sure. You know, when it comes to especially social media today, you know, you have to be regular with posting and I could be regular for a month. And then after that, I'm just like, I can't do it. I don't have the energy to do it. And, you know, that's kind of what I deal with as far as that goes. You know, all the time. And then I'm always second guessing myself when it comes to my projects. Like, is this good enough? You know, is whoever my listeners and is my audience going to like it? You know, and it honestly takes a lot of effort for me to kind of pull myself out of that and be like, okay, this is my art. There's no wrong way to do art.
Got it.
And as long as I like it, then, you know, hopefully one person will like it. One other person besides himself, you know. But yeah, it's you know, I deal with that a lot, and especially being that a lot of the people, you know, the public tends to compare, you know, ukulele player to ukulele player.
Sure.
And you know, I think that's something that we all feel more than we should, you know.
Yeah, I mean, art is doing any kind of art. It takes vulnerability to approach it. I mean,
Right.
you know, if you're going to go out there and do that, you're putting yourself out there. You're putting, you know, your soul out there, and that takes a vulnerability that I think every artist, doesn't matter whether you're a musician, a photographer, a painter.
Right. You basically have to feel, you know, to be able to be vulnerable. And feeling is not something that a lot of us want to do. You know.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social media anxiety. I know,
Yes,
I know how you
exactly.
feel.
Yeah.
Because it's like you put all this work into, like, it could be a post or some video, and it's just like, man, like, am I doing something wrong? You know, if it doesn't catch on or something like that. So there's a whole, we've been putting to this age where it's like, validation is kind of happening from a double tap on their screen, and that's not like, but at the end of the day, we're all artists, so it's like something we gotta adapt to now in this current age, and it's frustrating. I know how you feel. So.
Yeah, social media is
Wow, that's
effectively like,
interesting, though.
it's like the new CD sales is social media. Your likes are
Yeah.
are
Exactly.
almost like your CD sales, right? It's like I'm not getting any likes. It's like I didn't sell my album didn't sell because that's all digital
feel like
now.
that.
It's a different perspective. Taimane, what about you?
Well, I was just thinking about what you were saying of like how that's the new thing, but like, how do we get paid? Like,
Yeah,
I know.
we get paid from the CDs,
Yes.
but like social media. But yeah, I think you second guess yourself, especially as an artist where you're very sensitive to the world. So putting something out can be something delicate, especially in the social media world where we've grown up now in this situation where we're more sensitive to people behind a keyboard, which I don't know if it's fair, but that's just the world that we live in now. So how do we adapt to that as artists? That's, I guess, a struggle that that we're dealing with now. But how do we adapt to that? That's a good question. You know, I like to listen to a lot of motivational videos. It's just something that I enjoy.
Yeah, but yeah.
And
those are
so
cool.
what I've heard is from people that I admire is I get a lot of comments, you know, a lot of good comments and bad comments, but I don't allow it to affect me, whether it's good or bad. It's just this is something affecting people, and I just continue to do what I do, whether it's good or bad. And so I try and I guess think about that when I'm putting something out, you know, and how it affects me more than how it affects others.
That's great. Yeah.
You mean those videos where it has a real dramatic music and then
Yeah.
the voice comes out, you must never give up. You know?
Is that
I think
Warrior
Jake should do
one?
some.
Huh?
Is that the Warrior quote one?
I don't know. I
There's
don't know.
like
But there's
David
a whole bunch of them.
Goggins, David
There's so,
Goggins,
like,
Joe Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's so many. Like get up.
yeah, every time I listen to those, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go lift
Yes.
weights now or something, you know? Like,
That's
I'm gonna
Jake
get,
should do some,
get
for
buff
sure.
like Andrew.
Right. I love those.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah,
I'd
they're so
subscribe to the
uplifting.
Jake motivational
Yeah.
podcast.
Right? You should start.
Yeah.
What would you say, Jake, for
Huh.
like your inspirational like video? What would you say?
It's like, eat more kale. No, I don't know.
Yes! Do your melody like scales. Do your scales.
I'm out.
Jake would actually have a
Oh,
good
music-wise,
podcast with
that's
us, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
that.
man.
Just that. Yeah. It's a very clean, mellow. Herb, what about you? Any moments that, struggles or challenges that made you either, I'm sure every artist second guesses themselves, but like make you, just really
I
challenge
mean,
you to look different.
nothing musically, but just to touch upon what Brittany and Tamani talked about, I was gonna totally stop playing 10 years ago. I was just getting burnt out. It started to feel like work, traveling, touring, radio stations promoting recordings when actually still had CDs back then,
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago. But a friend of mine convinced me to look at it at a different light, thinking that music heals people. You know, people need music in their life. So once I changed to that way of thinking, I don't feel burnt out at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'd personally like to thank that friend. So they've given us another 10 years or so of your music and more. So that's a good thing. So Taimane, coming back to you, and you touched on this already a little bit, but I'd like to go in a little bit further, and maybe the second question will be more of what you answer, and others can answer both parts. But you know, thinking about your approach to songwriting and what your approach is, and you've talked a little bit about that, but if you've got more to say, but also the second part is, I'm sure you guys all face writer's block and those moments where you're just stuck, and how do you try to work around that or work through it?
Sure. So for everyone, I think the writing process is different, but for me, I start out with a melody. So I'll hear something in my head, start with the melody, and then for me, what's really helpful is like a recording device. So like sing into it, or I'll play to it, listen to it, add chords. And that's kind of how I create a song. But even deeper into that, I like to write concept albums. So before I even start an album, I'm like, okay, like what are we going to dedicate 2 years of your life to? Like this is a really important situation for me. So for me, it's the concept. Like what's the mood? What's the story? And then from there, I'll write a song from that. That's what I've been doing for a while. And then if I come up to writer's block, for me, it's if there's writer's block, I'll like go and listen to a performance. I'll go out, try and get away from songwriting, listen to other musicians, enjoy a show, and that kind of helps. Or I'll even do like write a song, but in a different way. So if I do melody first, okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to start with lyrics and then see where that goes. But for me, the most, I guess, relevant way for me to get out of writer's block is, I guess, seeing a show or just trying to get out of that same headspace.
The funk.
Yeah.
For sure. Herb, what about you?
It's hard for me to like tell myself, okay, I'm going to write a song today. And just, it's like, I have paper and I'm like, you know?
Wait, you write your songs on paper? You write your songs on paper?
Sometimes. But if I'll call him, hey. No, but what triggers me to want to write is seeing something significant or being part of something significant. The very first time I went up to see the sunset up at Haleakala on Maui. Very inspiring on a clear day. Or just sitting at the beach and seeing, people just swimming or kids playing in the sand or something. It takes me out of my normal realm of everyday life, that inspires me to write something. But sometimes it's just difficult. It's like, see, like my dad, he can tell himself he's gonna write 10 songs in 2 days, and he does it. I don't know how he does it, but he just does it. I guess it's just the experience of being so musical, or hearing different types of music throughout his life. It's just easy for him to come up with melodies, just like that.
Yeah.
I think melodies is good, but just to put a total song together, I think we all can come up with melodies easily, but to actually put it in a song structure, that's the hard part. I think.
What about you, Jake?
Well, one of the things I wanted to touch on was just kind of going back to the earlier question with the struggles, you know. I mean, yeah, like it's like hearing you guys talk about social media and all that. Yeah, I was a little surprised, like I didn't realize how affected, you were by it. And, I mean, obviously I'm a little older, so, but not quite as old as, but, and.
What is social media? No, I mean, I did ask her. I said, does that affect you? But what? Not really.
No, but
He keeps going to the library to check out Facebook.
Yeah.
I can't figure out what it is.
But like, because for me, well, one of the things that I appreciate about Brian and Herb, and I'm so glad that they're here, to be a part of this, because like for me, growing up, that was always that's what always helped to keep me grounded. Like my, I guess for me to have their blessing on things or on projects, or having their, their support in anything, was kind of like the thing that would help me to carry on, so like if I was struggling with something, and like I used to go to Brian all the time, we'd call him up and
All hours.
he'd come over to my house, or we sleep over. We have long discussions about life, and with Herb too, and we talk about all kinds of stuff. But like for me, it helps me, because for me they're they see everything, like, I mean, everybody knows Brian's like the ukulele ambassador. I mean, everybody, I mean, he knows everything that's going on. And even like when I started my career as a performer, it was this guy, with pure heart. I mean, he brought me over at the Sheraton, had us play in front of an audience, and, and everyone in the community, right? They talk, and, and he was always very supportive of what we were doing. And, and so because of Brian and some of my other mentors, just kind of looking after us, and, and, just behind the scenes, just always helping you along the way.
You need that outside support.
Yeah.
If you try and depend only on yourself, and I think that's where the struggles come, with the social media. How am I going to do this? Like I was telling her, does that affect you? Because we never had social media.
Right.
So we always played because we just love playing. Whatever came from that, came from that. We didn't have to compete, so to speak, for likes, for videos, for all. It's like, nah, I think I sounded pretty good. What do you think? Yeah. Like you said, if someone tells you sound pretty good, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's how we felt validated or accepted, so we didn't have to track everything. Oh man, it must be so hard to worry about those types of things. I was talking to her, is that, oh, we don't give a crap. We don't know. I mean, basically, because we still do it, I don't want to say old-fashioned way, but we do stuff because we love to do it. I get one like, okay, it's probably me. It's probably my wife. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I mean, whatever, you know what I mean? Right. I mean, I can see, but see, I come from a different place too.
Sure.
I worked for 40 years and played ukulele. So I didn't have to depend on that. If I didn't want to play, I didn't have to play. But I was probably the busiest part-time ukulele player out there. Playing with Kuipo Kumukahi, Jerry Santos, Weldon Kikaoha, and these are all like 5-6 year stints. But I had a regular job that I could go to and say, okay, I could separate it. So there was really no, I gotta do this. I have to. I need a CD. I didn't have my first CD till I was like 40, 42. I was on everyone else's CDs.
Sure.
But, so I come from a different thought process than, and listening to them, man, I can see where self-doubt can come in because you always have to produce. You always feel like you have to produce because like there's always somebody better. So whether you feel it's a competition or not, there is a competition. Yeah.
Yep.
But
And-
that's
No, I
I like that
agree.
he raised his hand.
I agree. I agree with what Brittany touched on. Is that it may sound selfish, but you have to be happy with what you do
exactly.
musically.
That's not selfish.
No,
That's
but
fine.
I mean because everyone, some people may ask any of us, right? Oh, because if you're in Tahiti, would you play Tahitian songs? If you go to Japan, do you play Japanese songs? And so forth, right?
Got it.
But I don't, when people ask me that, I'm like, no, I'll just play what I want to play.
I think like there was a large part of, right when the ukulele was starting to have that resurgence, not long after I started coming on the scene, people were like, Brittany, why are you having all these other instruments on your album? Your ukulele just needs to be ukulele. Like, I don't like the other instruments. I'm like, well, I do. So,
Yeah, true.
Yeah. No,
if
exactly.
you don't like it, you don't need to listen to it, and that's the unfortunate reality,
Yeah.
Absolutely. Andrew, I don't know if you have anything to add on this before we move on.
What was the original question?
Sorry.
Sorry, that went like in 6 different directions.
It was approach to songwriting and your approach to songwriting. And, and if you hit
Writer's block.
block.
Yeah, so for me, like I'm always trying to do something new, like have I hit that genre of music before, and so using like different kinds of tunings, low G and high G. I'm always trying to come up with something. And if I start to sound the same as like a previous album, I start to get very insecure about that. And I'm like, no, this one's gotta sound different. This one's gotta be better. And it's kind of sharpened me to just be more innovative with that process.
Yeah,
So
for
so like I said, tunings is number one, different influences of music, but yeah, so I'm feeling the pressure for the next one as well. So
Oh, that's
see what
pressure.
happens.
Man.
got to make the next one better than the last.
That's yeah. I
At
mean,
least for
That's
yourself.
the hard part.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
if you just do something
no,
that's
I know,
in a
I
different
felt that.
direction,
Yeah.
because it's hard to when you're always comparing it to your old work. It's just like, it's
Right.
gonna be like a new journey 2.0. For me, I'm just like, no, it's got to be something different. So I don't know, but yeah, we can get in our own heads like that. And
Yeah.
with this whole
Wow.
social media thing too, and there's no consequences like for what people say.
Yeah.
They can. YouTube is like one of the worst places for negative comments. So it's just don't get consumed with that. With that,
You just
'cause it
don't
can
even
really
read the
bring you down. It
comments.
can make you actually stop your
Yeah.
craft if you hear the wrong information from the wrong person.
Right.
Especially if you're more sensitive. So
Or even
that's
like
another-
attacking us personally when they don't know us.
Yeah, I mean, you could destroy someone's dream by telling them
Exactly.
something like that.
Yeah.
That's pressure. I mean,
It is. And that's
Sorry,
this is the era. And it's not just within artists. It's my daughter dances and they post videos of them dancing and they feel that same pressure even though that's not their job. It's just something they're doing for their passion. And it's like if I don't get a certain amount of likes, that post was terrible. It's like was it me? Do people not like me? Is it my art? What is it? And
Right. Yeah.
you can get yourself far more consumed in it than it really should be. And actually going back to Time on it should be about, are people downloading your music or buying your music or, that's the stuff that you guys are carrying up, that's what you want. Are people coming to see you play? Are people enjoying what you produce? Is, forget the likes and comments, but unfortunately we live in a world that it's just
They go
a
hand in
regular
hand.
world.
Yeah.
So it's a tough one.